Hey guys, welcome to another trail food video. Our master plan is just to sample every pre-packaged backpacking meal on the planet and point you in the direction of the best ones. And today we're reviewing Firepot, a British brand of dehydrated meals, and we're specifically taking a look at 4 of their vegan offerings. And vegan cooking, of course, means working within some serious constraints. No meat, no dairy products, no eggs, but if anyone's up to the task, it's Firepot, because they are pretty serious about keeping things out of their food, be it palm oil or additives, and gluten and lactose as well in some of their meals. Now, Firepot is a little different than most other brands because, well, they actually cook the food in a kitchen. And that may sound obvious, but a lot of hiking meals, likely the majority, are made by just throwing freeze-dried ingredients together, so the stuff that's in the package never really existed together as a meal before you prepare it. Now what Firepot does is making actual meals and then dehydrating them as a whole with their own custom dehydrating process. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, instinctively, that does sound tastier than the alternative. Though I should add that freeze drying does have its own benefits. One, it retains more nutritional value, and 2, it takes less time to rehydrate when you add hot water. Firepot takes as much as 15 minutes, while freeze-dried meals can be ready in as little as 5 minutes. Now, we got some friends together to test these. We had a great time sampling these 4 meals, but it's good to know when we're talking about taste that none of us are actually vegans, so do keep that in mind.
Ik proef vooral tomaat en peper. Tomaat is zeer overheersend in deze maaltijd. Maar als ik het vergelijk met de gemiddelde knormaaltijd, vind ik het wel meer smaak hebben.
For the most part, there was no feeling of something's missing, but if any of the 4 meals left us wanting some protein, it was probably the paella. It's not a very complex flavor, quite heavy on the tomato, and it tastes like it would be amazing with some feta or parmesan or some prosciutto. And I do realize that was a very, very un-vegan thing to say, but what I'm trying to say is that it's good, but in kind of a side dish kind of way. On the bright side, it does have a nice kick with a well-calibrated amount of pepper. Firepot's marketing talks a lot about sustainability and local food sourcing and healthy food. And I'm always a bit weary of this stuff because it's just easier to write the copy for the website than it is to come up with actual healthy meals that still taste well after what surely must be a traumatizing process for food. But looking at the stats and comparing them to some of the stuff that we've sampled before, I do tend to agree that it is quite healthy as these things go. I'm obviously not a dietitian, but I do think there's something to be said for eating less saturated fat, for example. They're pretty heavy on the carbs and pretty low on salt, and I think that last one, that salt, is a good thing in itself, but I don't think it matters as much when you're hiking, since you will be sweating and you do need to refill those electrolytes. Firepot are not doing themselves a favor, in my opinion, by adding so little salt. And I do think that's most obvious with Dal and Rice with spinach.
Weinig smaak.
Ik kan me vergissen, maar volgens mij heb ik dat in Nepal wel gegeten. En daar heb je pikante sausjes bij.
It seems to need a little longer to rehydrate than the other ones. First impression is that it's a bit bland and it lacks some flavor, but then add on some salt really made the flavor open up for me, and I quite enjoyed it in the end. You can taste the cumin as well as some other traditional spices, a light kick of pepper as well. The yellow split peas give it some texture and some bite, which is a good thing because that's something that sometimes rice-based meals can sometimes lack. Oh yeah, and maybe yellow split pea dal would be a better name for this because the amount of spinach in this is just not enough for it to be a headliner. One thing I like about Firepot, and I don't know why this isn't more common in other brands, is that they sell their meals in 2 different sizes. There's a regular serving coming in at about 500 calories, and an extra large version at around 700 to 800 calories. If you are always left wanting after a regular hiking meal, you're gonna love these. This one's easy. If you like mushroom risotto, you will like this. It's comfort food, it is well seasoned. The rice is, I think of the four we've tasted, this kind of rice is the most well suited to rehydration. And maybe it's because these kind of mushrooms always come in a dried form, so this is just what we're used to. But I can't imagine serving this to people without actually telling them that it's freeze-dried.
Ik vind de paddenstoelen risotto tot nu toe het lekkerste, omdat ik echt de paddenstoelen proef en in combinatie met de rijst.
The chili, perhaps unsurprisingly, is the most spicy meal of the four. It's well seasoned, and I do applaud Firepot for not being afraid to give things a distinctive flavor. They do know their spices, but again, I think most people are going to want to add some salt here. There's pieces of tomato, but not a lot of sauce. Some more tomato sauce and passata perhaps would bring this closer to what I am personally used to in a chili con carne, though that is obviously just, well, what you're used to, and I doubt Belgium is the place to go if you want to taste real authentic chili con carne. So in conclusion, I think Firepot does have a lot going for it. It's actual dehydrated food, not just freeze-dried ingredients tossed together. It's rather cheaper than other brands that have the same kind of process. Real Tournament comes to mind. It comes in different sizes and it does a great job of catering to people's dietary choices and needs. That said, I do think most people are gonna want to take it with a pinch of salt or some soy sauce. It's true that salt hardly weighs anything, of course, so there's no real reason not to take it with you. By the way, I had the same experience with their non-vegan meals, lacking a bit of salt. I've also had one of their breakfasts, I think it was the toasted banana porridge, and I felt that also lacked sugar. So I'm sorry, Firepot, but you are just too healthy.